Peter Belo. He is our resident astronomer.
Yes, you got it right this time.
All right, a resident astronomer. So he's done quite a few programs for us. Actually, we had an eclipse party in the fall. And he's going to tell us, he's talked to us about how to use the telescope. In case you don't know, the library does have a telescope that you can check out with your Plaistow Library card. So he's held programs for that. He's just a guru of everything that there is, the sky. So we're very fortunate tonight to have him here and tell us about the total solar eclipse that's happening this April. So give a warm welcome to Peter.
Thank you for that, the kind words, Jen. And I'm going to put a shameless plug in up front. My sister and I are actually doing a program in March where we will show people how to make Ukrainian-style Easter eggs called pisanki. Very ornate, sadly poisonous at the end of the day. You can't eat them. In order to get really bright dyes and have really intense colors, that they use some pretty nasty chemicals in them. But anyhow, so we'll be doing that program in March, and I think that's a free program, right, Jen?
It is a free program, yes.
Okay. And people...
So if you want to come, sign up as soon as you can.
Yeah, people will be able to actually learn how to make them, make one or two here, and walk away with the finished product. So, anyhow, I'm here to talk about the April 8th total solar eclipse. I'm kind of an eclipse fan. I've gone to see 3 total solar eclipses myself. I don't mind saying I am not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination, but being under a total eclipse is like the most spiritual thing I've ever been in. You're kind of at one with the universe. It's a very unusual feeling. And so I'm going to advocate that you folks try to get into the total eclipse in this April eclipse. Oops. Okay, so there's 3 types of eclipses, fundamentally. So there's a lunar eclipse where the Earth is between the moon and the sun, so we cast a shadow onto the moon. There's a solar eclipse where the moon is between the sun and the Earth, and the moon casts a shadow onto the Earth, or surface. And then there's the apocalypse, and that's where the sun is between the Earth and the moon, and we all fry. We can't do that. So a total solar eclipse, it's as seen from here, the Earth. It's a type of eclipse that occurs when the moon passes between the sun and the Earth. There's on average 1 or 2 every year someplace on the Earth. The moon has to be full, or I'm sorry, it has to be a new moon for this to occur. Okay, so this diagram shows kind of how it all works. You've got this, it's all compressed in size, but basically the moon is casting a shadow onto the Earth, and if you can see, there's a dark black area cone. In that cone, the sun is fully invisible. But on the edges, there's the gray zone there and the gray zone there, a little bit of sunlight still getting by the moon. So the moon isn't fully covering the sun. In April, Plaistow is going to be in an area where the moon does not fully cover the sun. Okay. So the places where you can see this total eclipse in April are on that path. It's about 100 miles wide, 3,000 something miles long. It starts actually off the coast of Mexico, goes across Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, rest of the states, up through upper New York State, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, northern Maine, and then off in Canada. These charts at the bottom really are not really relevant to us. It's an estimate of how many people are going to travel into those states to see the eclipse. So I'm going to Texas, and the estimates are 180,000 to 775,000 visitors for that day. And that's already from a state that's got a lot of people. So what will Plaistow see? At the most, just over 90% of the sun will be covered, not clocked, covered, sorry, by the sun. It'll be similar to that. But if you head north to Colebrook or Pittsburgh, New Hampshire area, or west out towards Syracuse, New York, you're going to see I got to turn the lights off, assuming Dean doesn't totally freak out. Can we turn them down, or?
That's better.
Okay.
Oh, just that?
Just that.
Okay. Yeah, that looks much better. So that is what a total solar eclipse looks like. The moon is covering the whole sun, and all you see around it is the sun's outermost atmosphere called the corona. And the corona has a different shape every time. It's not going to look exactly like this. The corona is a very it's a very thin atmosphere that's at about 10 million degrees. Oh, these are pictures, by the way, I took at different eclipses. The last one was down in Texas, in Illinois, and this one was years ago in Aruba. So this is a wide-angle lens, and it gets so dark that the planets and stars come out. It really does get quite dark. Stars come out. The birds are totally confused. They go to roost. The temperature from full sun to totality decreases around 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And then as you go through it, as the sun comes back, it rises back up again, of course. Roosters kind of go crazy at the end of a total solar eclipse. They start, they pretend like it's 4 or 5 a.m. This is a weather satellite view of an eclipse, so I didn't take this. But that area right there that's dark in North America is under the eclipse. And there's actually, you can go online and find videos of these, like time lapse, seeing the shadow move. So, as I mentioned, the sun's corona, it's the outermost atmosphere. It's very thin. It's usually hidden because it is like 0.01% as bright as the sun's surface that we see. So it's just lost in the glare. You can only really see it during a total eclipse. So why bother going to see totality? I got to actually read this from here. So back in 2008, I became aware that Plaistow saw an eclipse in 1932. And I asked the Historical Society here in town if any members have any recollection of it. Well, nobody at the meeting remembered it, but somebody mentioned it to Paul Holmes, who at the time was a member of the Historical Society. And I don't know if any of you folks knew him. He passed away a few years ago. He was also the town archaeologist, kind of cool guy. So he wrote me a letter. He said, "Dear Peter, speaking about total eclipses of the sun, back in 1932, I remember quite well, for I was only 10 years old, and my dad was all fired up about the coming big event. We, family of 3 kids, me, the middle boy, between 2 girls, lived in the brown bungalow, number 7 Sweet Hill Road. It's still there. Paul died in that house. Dad was an eager learner about the mysteries of the heavens. Well, he broke up some old window glass down cellar, set up a candle, and smoked up 5 pieces of glass, explaining to me why he was doing that and the importance of the smoked glass to protect our eyes from the sun and to never look at the sun with bare, unprotected eyes." So Paul's dad was a smart cookie. On that special afternoon, we piled into our 1932 Dodge Touring sedan, a 4-door canvas-topped new car of the year. We went over to Newton Junction via Crane Crossing Road to a small hill beyond the center of the junction, which said road banked on a wide curve heading east, which gave us a grand view to the southwestern skies, with no trees to block the view of the sun. As the moon began to pass over the sun, Dad instructed us how to cover one eye and look through the smoked glass with the other. This event is still quite vivid in my mind. It began to get dark, and we could see the sun being slowly covered by the moon. We noted there were no birds flying by and no chirps or songbirds singing. As the sun became totally covered, Dad told us to not use the smoke glass and noted that the edge of the sun around the moon like a light ring plainly visible. It slowly began to light as the moon journeyed across the sun. Roosters in the neighborhood began to crow like early morning call to the chickens. We went back to using the smoked glass. Birds began to sing like the morning robins out early for the worms before sunrise. It was quite an event, and I hope you have noted how I have retained that moment of striking events after all these years. If you would like to call me about this, I'd be happy to talk further. And I did. Paul and I had a long talk about this afterwards. And sorry I stumbled over some of the words, but the phrasing he used is a little old for me. But he was clearly very impressed. Now, Paul also, by the way, if you go to the Historical Society, Paul was he was the president of the State Archaeology Society for a while. And he wasn't an educated archaeologist, like college educated, but was self-taught. And he plotted a bunch of Indian camp remains in Plaistow, Newton, and Hampstead, right in this area. And they have a map of that down at the Historical Society. And he also plotted, so back at the end of the last ice age, the end of the Merrimack River was plugged up by ice, so the river rose, and like half of this town was covered by water. We were a lake. And he plotted where the shores of the lake were. And you can tell where it is by checking the soils. I used to live on Witch Lane, which is up by the American Legion off of Main Street. And my well was only like 7 feet deep. It was just sand underneath about this much loam. And that's from all the sand that came from the Merrimack. So interesting guy. He did a lot of cool stuff in this town. So why not wait until the next total solar eclipse? Well, it's because here's us, and there's nothing happening out to 2051. So it's like, this is it. These are some other memorabilia I have on the 1932 eclipse. That's a glass plate photograph that was taken of the eclipse from Boston, I think. These are an old pair of eclipse glasses from the Millinocket Press in Maine. And this is an ad showing where totality was, and we would have been right up in here. We were near the edge. All of this kind of stuff can be had on eBay if you look. Now, the one big problem, and I have a handout on this for you to look at later, is what the cloud cover along the eclipse path looks like. As you go higher on this chart, you get more clouds. The very top is 100% clouds, bottom is 0. And as you go up the path, this is how the cloud cover varies. So this is like in Mazatlan, Mexico. You got the best shot. It's only 0.2, it's like 20% chance of clouds. Where I'm going to be in Texas, it's up here at around 50%. New Hampshire's up here, like it's 70% chance of clouds. So I really want to see another total solar eclipse before I die, so I'm going to Texas. I'm not going to Mexico because I'm afraid of acute lead poisoning. Getting shot. But there is an area, not too awful far, that's got better odds, and that would be in New York State. In the Buffalo, Rochester area, it's only about 50% chance of clouds. Right along the Lake Ontario. Now, there's this thing called El Nino that's going on. So that the last chart just showed kind of like the average over the last 100-year cloudiness. So during an El Nino, which is a warming of the North Pacific, I think it is, that affects weather forecasts a bit. And this chart shows the eclipse path. And where it's blue here and up here along northern New Hampshire and Vermont, means that there's less clouds. So there's about 10% better possibility than the last chart showed because of this El Nino going on. But the center up here of the country it doesn't affect it at all, really. So this is just some of the facts about what will be going on. I steal these things shamelessly. I hope you guys don't mind. So totality arrives in New Hampshire at 3:28 in the afternoon, leaves at 3:31. It's only about 3 minutes long. The moon's shadow, so the moon's shadow is actually moving along. And before totality hits, if you have a good horizon, you can see this cone-shaped shadow in the distance, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until poof, you're underneath it. For me, the first time I saw that, I actually took a step backward. I thought it was like getting hit in the chest. The moon shadows up at here is traveling at 2,600 miles an hour, and by the time it gets over to the other side, it's at 3,900 miles per hour. The sun's about a third of the way up the sky, and the maximum duration is 3 minutes and 28 seconds. So the eclipse is visible from this line up, well, actually up to there. And its maximum duration is up here, like in Pittsburgh. The closer you get to the edge of the totality area, the shorter it is, until it's a minute or 30 seconds long only. So, if you could travel an extra 30 miles to gain 2.5 minutes, that's a good bet. This is Vermont. I'd say just over a third of Vermont's in the path of totality. If you have friends up in northern Vermont, that might not be a bad place to go. By the way, if anybody has any questions, say so. Maine, about half of Maine ends up being covered, but it's the part where nobody lives, basically, except for summer. There's a lot of summer cottages up there. And I put some of New York here just for grins. I happen to have relatives up in Buffalo, New York. Yeah, Peter was right there. And they don't have to go anywhere. They're like centrally located. And because of this El Nino, there's along the lake, the odds of seeing it increase. Okay, now, so you're not supposed to look at the sun. None of us did for any extended periods of time, or we wouldn't be looking at each other now. So the library's got, and you could buy online through Amazon or whatnot, these eclipse glasses. And these things cut out 99.999% of the solar light, including infrared, including ultraviolet. So you can just put them on and look at the partial phase of totality in these. But if you go someplace else where there is totality, where the sun's fully covered, you take these off. Once the sun's fully covered, just use your eyes. I kid you not, I know a lady who lives in Newton who was in, I think, Wyoming for the last big eclipse, which was 2017. And she was out there for a golf tournament. And then she heard there was going to be an eclipse, so she got eclipse glasses, and she went out to watch it. So she knew not to look at the sun with her naked eyes. So she didn't. And then she put her eclipse glasses on at totality, which made everything black. So she kind of missed the whole thing. I am not kidding you on that. I was kind of floored. And this is an educated person too, by the way. The Plaistow Library's got several hundred of these pairs around, and from about 2 weeks before the eclipse, they'll be giving them away. They're going to be doing something here, I think, for the eclipse. I'm personally going to Texas because that's where the odds are. So it won't be here. So the stuff that is in these eclipse glasses, it's a real thin mylar, real super thin plastic that has an evaporated aluminum coating, and that coating is what blocks the sunlight. You can just buy that filter material and put it over a pair of binoculars. Or the library's got a telescope. I'll be making a safe filter for that so they can watch from here. But you can purchase the solar filter material. Look for Botter Astro Solar Film online, like on Amazon. I looked it up early this afternoon. Yes, ma'am.
I'm one of the school librarians in the Timberline Regional School District. And all the elementary school librarians receive 500 glasses.
Oh, okay.
And we're actually going to be giving a lot of them to the public libraries. So check with your public library first.
Very cool.
I just had a conversation back here. So yeah, we got them from NASA. We need to share because we're not going to use all of them.
So I've been told that at least one physics class from the high school is going up to Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, and there's another group that's with Lou Broad.
Yep.
You know him? And I'm told Steve Rugaletti may be taking another group someplace.
Yep, that's right. Sounds about right, yeah.
Also,
Make sure though that our public libraries get a bunch of these. So go to the library, your local library, and see if you can get them.
that's great. So I hope you folks are going to be doing something in your school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't need 500 each.
Well, I know. I'm in
So
district,
we all have enough for everybody in our schools, so the excess we're giving.
Okay. If you want to if you want some help in putting exercises and demos and things together with the kids, please feel free to call me. I live here. I used to be on the school board.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know Justin.
Okay, yeah, me too.
He's a good guy. I'm actually really impressed by him. Superintendent.
I worked with him years and years ago. Yep.
Oh, so you can tell me the dirt.
No, I take a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay. Also, online, there's a project to make a sun projector. It takes 2 lenses and a cardboard box, but it's a big box. It's like 40 inches long by 6 by 6 inches. The 6 by 6 is enlarged to like 8 by 8 or so, but it's got to be a 40-inch long box. And I've bought 2 sets of lenses for that. And if anybody wants to put together one, I'd be happy to work with them. But you got to supply the box.
Hey, we got boxes at school. We got many boxes.
Okay. Reach out to me after this sometime. Okay.
Oh, did you ask me a question? I'm
No,
sorry.
he just said to reach out.
Okay, I will.
Feel free.
Yeah.
If you are in totality, it's safe to view the sun with binoculars, telescope, or whatever until the end of totality only. And then you got to go back to the other methods. So our last total eclipse was, my family went to Missouri. We thought we were going to be in Missouri to watch it. Turns out that the weather forecast the night before the eclipse was awful. And we had 250 people from the greater Boston area all down there, and we had a couple buses, and some of us had cars, and at like 5 in the morning, we took off for southern Illinois, looking for a clear spot. So anyhow, this is the beginning of our journey. It's my son, he's now 27. So we started off in the back seat of the SUV with his eclipse glasses on as we left. We drove down to Missouri. This is the whole crew, my wife, my son Nick, daughter Anna in the middle, and her husband Chris. Weren't husband at the time. That's down in where we ended up in Illinois. What happened was we took off, and everybody was texting each other, just trying to keep together, figure out where everybody was going. We stuck pretty well together on the highways, and there was a lot of traffic. And we stopped at a big truck gas station. It wasn't made for little cars. In Marion, Illinois, and we got out of the bus, like, now where are we going to go? And we looked across the street, and there was what looked like an old shopping mall with no signs. It's like it was closed. Like, oh, this is good. So somebody went across, and it turned out that this shopping mall had turned into a used furniture store and mega church. And the pastor was very happy to let us use his parking lot. let us use their bathrooms, let us use the outdoor outlets he had to get electricity. So we set up there and saw the eclipse. The bad news was it was about a mile from the highway, and after the eclipse, it took people over an hour to get from that plaza to the highway. So we said, there's a Buffalo Wild Wings, let's go there. And we ran into Steve Rigoletti and his mother.
That's awesome.
He was visiting the same town we were, and he joined our convoy to go to Illinois. Steve still is a physical science teacher in the high school, and his mom's still kicking. So this is the moon just taking the first nick out of the sun. It's my daughter and his son-in-law using these eclipse glasses, and they're not blind, so I can tell you that they work. We have data. Okay. So we use binoculars to project crescent images, or images of the crescent sun on the ground. That works well too. Just don't put your eye to the back glass, you know. Another cool way to project images: use a colander that has big holes, and you get all these little images on the ground, kind of overlapping. So not much of the sun's left. It's going to get at least this dark in Plaistow, even less. So this is the time when it's safe to start just using your naked eye. This is called the diamond ring effect. The last bit of sunlight is shining through a valley on the edge of the sun. Other than that, the moon's are on the edge of the moon. The moon's blocking everything except light coming through one little valley at one point. It does kind of look like a diamond ring. So this is the inner corona, this is the innermost atmosphere, mid, and the outer corona. And that's all taken through the same camera, just different exposure times. And that's kind of all I have, folks. Thanks for attending, and remember, astronomy is looking up. I'm here for questions, comments. How can I do it better? I'm supposed to give this in 2 weeks to a Cub Scout group.
There's more than 50% chance that it's going to be cloudy.
Right.
Is that like being a cloudy night when the eclipse happens?
Absolutely. It'll be just like a cloudy night. The one thing you might see if you're in the totality area is you might see like a darker area of clouds, and that dark area moving where the shadow is.
Well, I was just going to say, so that, like, again, the librarians all got their classes, so we also did it in October.
Yes. There was the October eclipse. We were here at the library viewing it.
And yeah, they view it, and a lot of people were saying, oh, don't even bother, you're not going to be able to see it, but everybody that we gave glasses to, they all emailed like, oh, it was awesome, you know? So I'm just saying, like, you know, don't go necessarily.
That was a cloudy day.
It was.
And we were able to see all of it until the very, very end.
Yeah.
The cloud came over, but
Yeah.
that was, that's
And
a
I
great
was,
example.
right,
That
and I was
a
getting
good-
messages, because there were a lot of people discouraged, oh, I'm not even gonna, but it was like, wow, all these people went out and actually did it. So
You're
that's
there, you
awesome.
might as well give it a shot.
Right?
Right? Now, I applaud you guys for taking the kids out and showing them these things. It wasn't too many years ago when there was a partial solar eclipse and the teachers were told to draw the blinds. Don't let the kids out, draw the blinds. They can't look outside.
There's something like that in the science fiction stories.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I read a science fiction story that was like that a long time ago, that they had caught the story from being on another planet or something, and they wouldn't let anybody really out of the building to look to see what was going on. They locked people in closets, all kinds of terrible things.
Yeah, there's a couple science fiction stories like that. Jen?
So 90% coverage from here. Can we take our glasses off at 90%?
No.
No. So here we have to keep them on the whole time.
You keep them on until,
Three.
And that's not 90.
that's not 90, that's
Okay.
99 point something.
And it's only 3 minutes? in 28 seconds?
Yes. And that's this.
Imagine, right, you prepare for 3 minutes.
So-
I'll tell you guys, it's not like giving birth, just so you know.
So the longest total eclipse possible today is 7 minutes and 20 some seconds. And it happens when, the longest eclipse happens when the moon is as close as possible to the earth and the earth is as far as possible from the sun. Okay, so, the moon doesn't go around us in a perfect circle, and we don't go around the sun in a perfect circle. We're closest to the sun in January, we're farthest in early August. So if the eclipse occurs in early August, and the moon happens to be very close to us, we can have like a 7 minute and 20 second eclipse. And actually I went to one like that in La Paz, Mexico. And it was so long, it was like I had enough opportunity to take a ton of pictures and pull my binoculars up and look. It was great. One thing I've learned is to take just a few pictures and then pull the binoculars up and, appreciate it. So, yeah.
I would like to know if you know what causes the speed.
Yeah, the reason the speed of the moon's shadow changing is like if you're looking, if the shadow is right down, okay, Earth is a sphere, pretend that's a sphere, and if the shadow's straight down in the middle of the sphere, its speed appears to be less than if it's on the edge. It's like it's going around it. It's a geometry thing. The closer you get to sunset, basically, the faster the moon's shadow appears to move.
Flare-ups and things like that.
Nothing like that.
Going faster.
Nope. Good question, though. I was wondering if anybody was going to pick up on the fact that the speed changes.
Yeah, 3,906 miles an hour.
So this is real, there's a lot of hype about this year and the 2 eclipses that have been happening, one in October now. When are we going to see this again?
Sometime after 2051, I didn't even bother.
That's what I thought, yeah. It
No,
was
I'm
out
66. I don't go beyond 2051. Okay. I won't. If I'm alive, I won't be mobile.
Well, don't quit.
How far up in Vermont would you have to go to see all 100%?
Well, it's like more than halfway up the state. Hold on, let me.
From Montpelier or?
Montpelier, no, it's even up higher.
Oh, okay. Burlington?
Burlington, actually, yeah, Burlington will see it.
Yeah, okay. What about Lancaster, New Hampshire? I had read an article.
I have no idea where Lancaster is.
It's probably 2.5 hours from here.
Probably in it then.
Week State Park?
Yes.
Yeah, Week
Yeah.
State Park in Lancaster is what I was looking at. We might take a drive, 2.5 hours from here. So-
I know Colebrook's 3 hours and it's in the path. Or actually, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh is 3 hours and it's in the path. But that's like the far northern tip. All this stuff is online. If you typed in solar eclipse 2024 New Hampshire or Vermont or whatever state, all these maps come up. And the maps that I stole, by the way, are from Facebook.
Keep saying stolen. Did you give them credit?
Yes.
Did you cite your source?
Yeah, it's a great.
No, I see it.
But there's a couple different Facebook groups for eclipse watching, and every day they publish this back in January.
February?
Well, maybe just a couple days ago, February 3rd. It was 65 days to the eclipse, and then they don't go in a linear order. They're kind of bouncing around. Yes, Jen.
So you took some amazing pictures of the eclipse. How can we do that? Can we do that, or do we need to get crazy special equipment? Are we better off projecting it off the ground and then taking a picture of that?
Well, I'd say if you have like a DSLR type camera, digital SLR, like Dean Zanello.
Oh, Dean.
Dean's in the back room.
I know Dean.
Dean has those.
Okay.
You
I
put-
thought
put
you
a-
would give
put
me
a-
some kind of terminology. I
You
didn't
put
know.
put a telephoto or zoom lens on it, cover the front of it with BOD or Astro solar film, and that's all you need. Tripod's kind of useful, but it's not necessary. You know, one of the nice things about the sun is, well, it's not up every day here, but in theory it is, but it's up every 3 or 4 days, visible. You make yourself a little solar filter, pop it in front of your camera, and try some different exposures, but way before the eclipse. You could do it tomorrow, kind of thing, and, you know. Yep.
I used the glasses that you use to look at the sun and put those over the lens of the camera. I was telling Jen about that because I'm just waiting to get the film used before I get developed and find out what I'm going to get from having done it that way.
The only difficulty with doing that is these things are aluminized, so they're reflective. So if you put this up in front of a camera lens, if it isn't like fully shielded from light coming from the back and bouncing off of it, you might just end up with some weird reflections in the camera. But if you get just the raw material and you make a little holder for it and put it over the whole camera lens, then it's all nicely shielded.
I tried that too with other photographing the moon at night, for example.
Yep.
Using binoculars and just putting the binocular lens in front of the camera lens, and it comes out with a big round white circle in the middle of the film.
You can do that. My very first astronomy picture, and I don't mind saying this, it's going to make me look foolish, but Kathy's used to me looking foolish. Okay, I was like 10 years old. My dad had a nice camera. I was called a Rolleiflex, twin lens reflex camera. And I wanted to take a picture of the moon. So I put an electronic flash on it, and I thought, okay, the moon's like half a light second away from us. So I set the exposure time for a second, and I'm thinking that the flash from the camera would bounce off the moon and get back.
At least you were thinking.
Well, yeah, but it was really wrong-headed. And that exposure was so long, it was just all washed out. And
Of course, you can't find that out to get film developed, which is,
I used to do my own. I used to do one of my uncles was a press photographer.
so you don't, but I mean, that minute you're not finding it out.
Oh yeah, true. Yep.
Thinking a flash picture toward a mirror won't work too.
So anyhow, so stay here or go elsewhere, but I really encourage people to give it a try. Look at the long-range weather forecast. One thing I noted was because of, I think it's because of the chance of clouds. I got to go back here. I know you're here. Don't make me a liar. So one of the things I noted on this slide is that they expect very few people to travel to New Hampshire. The number was between 600 and 3,500. And that's not a lot of people on Route 93 headed north. I mean, really. You know, compare and contrast with New York State where it's 20, a half a million, you know, all along Route 90. So traffic shouldn't be all that big a deal going north-south.
I had called several hotels in the New York area, thinking, well, we would just drive down to New York and see it. And you couldn't even get a reservation. They all kept saying, it's the eclipse, you know.
Yep.
So they really, a lot of people are going to be looking at it.
Yeah. Well,
Were you there?
yeah, it's kind of, you know, scientifically it's kind of neat, spiritually it's kind of neat, and then people who are into crystals and things like that too, so, you know, it's like, it's a trifecta. So,
We skipped the Woodstock.
anything else? Anything else I can answer?
That's great.
Call it a
Thank you
night.
so much.
Please take away some of the brownies and the leave one lemon square for me.